Hey, 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 what's happening out there, everybody? Robert Phoenix coming to you live from Austin, Texas. What's happening? Today is the 8th of May, 2017. We got a new leader in France, Emmanuel Macron. 39 years old, married to a 64-year-old woman who was at one point in time his teacher. If you missed the live stream last night, I got into the chart of Macron and how the election astrologically was pretty much a slam dunk for him. And if you want to go check that out, that's going to be over there on YouTube on the 11th House page. I'll put that up on the website as well. And we had kind of some spirited comments over there on the 11th House live stream. One of the listeners said that Emmanuel Macron and his 64-year-old sweetie are a gender switch. That Macron is actually a woman and she's a man. This is an interesting perspective and point of view, and there are times in which I can totally buy into it. I mean, you look at some of the people that are thrust in front of us. Like, for instance, Serena Williams having a baby is a joke. I'm sorry. I've seen the pictures. I've seen her arch her back like she's pushing her belly out. And this woman she's about as able to get pregnant as I am, okay? Because she's not a woman. Now, Emily Moyer, who's been on the show and has gotten into sort of the occult connections with tennis. I'm going to be doing a show tomorrow night, basically an hour, I believe, with Emily and Randy, and I'll be talking about the connection between Bill Gates and Roger Federer, and see if I can find some astrological connections. Anyway, Emily says that Serena and Venus are intersex, meaning that they probably have both sexes. That's a possibility. I think she's probably a guy. If you look at the young photos of Venus Williams, you'll see exactly, or Serena Williams, both of them for that matter, exactly what I'm talking about. And this is, I don't think this is uncommon. It's a lot more common than we believe. But I'm not sure if Macron and his octogenarian wife are switches. They could be, though. They could be. I mean, there will be no children out of this union. And that's an interesting thought unto itself. The guy's 39 years old, and he's kind of in the prime of his siren phase. Actually, so he's post-prime. I think you're right around between, like around 26 to about 32 is when the prime gene action is switched on. Anyway, but there's not going to be any kids coming out of that union. Am I right? I'm right. So you're going to have a very strange coupling with these two. And Macron, his first statement to the world was, after the election, the world is coming to France. You better get used to it and deal with it. Now, I've been trying to track the election and to see if there's any foul play going on. A third of the French voters essentially ruined the election. Now, he won by, I believe, 60%. It's a huge, like, crushing blow. I mean, it was not even close. But you had a third of the French voters. The abstention rate was at 24.52%. And then you had another group. So it was either, here, let me read this to you. According to official results, with more than 80% of the votes counted, the abstention rate stood at 24.52%. The highest since the presidential election in 1969. that would make a total of one French person out of 3 who decided not to choose between the 2 candidates. It's really a lot for a presidential election. And Jadot. Macron claimed a thumping victory with 65% of the votes. But it was the first time since the 1969 election that participation in the second round has been lower than in the first, which saw LePen go through to the runoff as the highest scoring candidates. How does this happen? This is my big question here. LePen crushed everybody in the first round, and even voting-wise crushed Macron. So how does it work that when the real election comes around, that LePen, who had been way ahead in the polls, LePen, who had soundly beaten everyone in the first round, drops off the continental shelf? Is it because French voters were really that disaffected? And even if they were, would it have made a significant difference? Theoretically, if every one of those 24% voted for LePen, Macron still would have won by 34% of the vote, and it wouldn't have mattered. We live in an age, and I don't care what country you're in. I'm very surprised that Brexit actually won, to be honest with you. But we're living in an age where voting fraud is ubiquitous. It's ubiquitous. Whether it's France or Florida, it's ubiquitous. Now, this is a serious blow to the nationalists to some degree, right? Because you had the guy in Holland, Wilders, he suffered his defeat, and now LePen suffered her defeat. So things aren't really going the way of the nationalists. The globalists now have gotten wise to the game, and they are intervening as quickly as possible so that they can continue with the global agenda, which is turning the world into the New World Order, which is what it's all about, which we've discussed ad nauseum here on the show, and we'll continue to do so because the whole idea here is to understand the mechanism at work, who's behind it, what your place in it is, and how you can actually do something about it, even in your own life. Because if we allow ourselves to see what's going on in the outside world, we'll be disappointed again and again and again and again. So we have to re-rack our focus, we have to re-rack our vision, and do things that are positive, loving, kind, and empowering and inspiring to ourselves, for ourselves, one another, and for God Almighty, the Creator, brings all gifts to us every day. And that's true. That's true. And I know this for a fact. And I'm not preaching. I'm just telling you what I know and what I've experienced. Because I've been in my life where I have been cut off from the light like you won't believe, and for periods of time that would send most people over the edge. And by the grace of God, I came back and have been able to reclaim my life. And that was many years ago. And you know when you're on the right track. You know when things are going right because you are living from that perspective. And I'm telling you, we can't really do anything without this mediating force of prime creation every single day. The world is the planet, not the world is different than the planet. The planet is an incredibly sophisticated organism. And for all of our knowledge, I think we have scratched about maybe 10% of what we really know about this place, how everything works together from a cohesion level. So when we look at something like France and LePen, and there are a lot of people like, no, this is great, this is going to be another victory lap for nationalism. Well, it didn't happen. They wanted this guy in, and they were going to put this guy in. And so this is how it's going to go from here on out. Trump, an anomaly? Perhaps. I think they would have been fine with either Trump or Hillary Clinton, but Trump even now he is still being Trump. And he'll always be Trump throughout his presidency, whoever he is. I mean, now he's pissing off Sheldon Adelson, who's one of the most hideous looking people on the planet. I mean, the guy is just hideous looking. And he has so much power, he's got so much wealth, and I'm really happy that Mark Davis and the Raiders didn't get in bed with him for a stadium. Anyway, he's on Trump's case now because Trump has not, lickety-split, moved the U.S. Embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. And Sheldon Adelson gave Donald Trump a huge amount of money. So these people control a lot of the chutes and levers and buttons. They push a lot of buttons and pull a lot of levers of power on this world, which is why our power, that people who are awakening and have awakened through their third eye and their heart, through the opening of their crown, we understand that there is a different power, and it's that power that sustains us and helps us with our lives to build from strength to strength if we can acknowledge it. And that's the big part, is the acknowledgement piece. There are times every now and then when I question my role and what I'm doing. I have to do it every now and then. I've talked about this before. And I basically say, hey, look, if I'm here and I'm supposed to be doing something else, you just let me know. As long as I can pay my bills, as long as it's something that I can deal with my body, just let me know and I'll do it. If I'm not supposed to be doing this, you show me. And invariably, I'll pick up 4 or 5 clients. And there it is. And it helps keep the radio side going. It helps keep the other side going. And it works. And, I think we all need to have that check-in periodically just to see where we are with our work and our life and our relationships and our connections. I think it's the thing that's going to keep us healthy, real, sound, and sane. Hamid Karzai has crawled out from under the rug, the Afghani rug that he flew in on. Karzai, of course, the former Afghani president, the guy who welcomed the United States into Afghanistan prior to 9/11 so that the United States can get their fair share of the poppy trade and the opium trade. And he's come out and he has said that Daesh /ISIS/ISIL is a product of the U.S. Really? What took you so long? And so this is an interesting kind of moment here. I'm going to tell you what he says. I'm going to go in for a quote here. By the way, he talked about the big Moab bomb. Basically, it was just a publicity stunt, really. That's what it was. And a lot of us knew that. Yi was down in Florida, the guy from China. The Chinese love fireworks. They invented them. And so Trump gave him some fireworks. He gave him a big gas bomb. Gave him a big gasser. First, Daesh comes to drive people away, and then the U.S. comes and drops that big bomb, saying he was convinced that the use of the massive bomb was a joint U.S. ISIS/Daesh operation. The former Afghan leader also told Fox News that the U.S. simply wants to use Afghanistan terrain to test its toys. They think this is a no-man's land for testing and abuse, but they are wrong about that, Karzai said. We have a deeply patriotic population here that will not allow this. Well, you were there. You were the guy running the show, and you brought him in. It's pretty hypocritical. The development comes as U.S. military mulls the deployment of thousands of more troops to Afghanistan. Hello, Mr. Non-intervention. He's not taking. This is not Trump's deal. This is McMaster's deal. The bald-headed man who has seized power, right? Mr. Zero Leo, the guy whose cranium looks like it's part Anunnaki. This is his call. Trump has decided to give his military carte blanche. Between that guy and Mad Dog Mattis, boy, we got. I'm speechless, actually, which is hard sometimes. U.S. media quoted the senior senator as saying Thursday that the Pentagon plans to ask for between 3,000 and 5,000 more conventional military personnel with the stated aim of advising and assisting Afghan military. So this is how they get around the whole war declaration thing. We've never declared war against Afghanistan. We've never declared war against ISIS, because of course we created ISIS, so we'd have to declare war against ourselves. Wouldn't that be an interesting kind of moment where the United States declares war against itself and has to vote? What if the vote passed? I think it probably could, actually. Washington and its allies first invaded the country in 2001 as part of the so-called War on Terror. The invasion moved Taliban from power, but militancy continues to this day. The Taliban did not do 9/11. Didn't do 9/11. No. Al-Qaeda didn't do 9/11. The Taliban were our little brothers. They are our little bros. They were created by the United States so that they could fight the Russians in Afghanistan, and they did. And they kicked the Russians' ass. Thanks, of course, to a lot of U.S. military intervention, giving them weapons, giving them coordinates, giving them all the stuff that they needed to know in order to fight the Russians and secure their sovereignty. So we created them. And then we left. And then the Taliban said, well, we got all these guns, we got all these weapons. Let's run this place. Let's run it. You know what the Taliban did? They stopped opium production. Now, who do you think was not happy after that? Yep. That's right. Oh, we got to go back to Afghanistan. Oh, boy, we got a war on terror there. These guys did 9/11. And Americans were so traumatized. They didn't give a shit. They were like, just get somebody. Just get somebody. We don't care who it is. This never happened to us before. Just get him. Get him, Paul. Get him. And that's what they did. They got him. We had a bad case of trauma and bloodlust. Those were dark times. I'm telling you, sitting around watching that bullshit. Terrible. I remember calling into talk shows during that time, trying to tell people that these people had nothing to do with it. I mean, that was, and I got shouted off these shows. It was crazy. It was nuts. Un-American. This is what happens. So we've been there now. This is 2001 that it all started, right? 2001. Here we are. It's 2017. We've been there 16 years. 16 years in Afghanistan. And what do we have to show for it? Well, we got a lot more really good heroin. We have a ton. It's like the best heroin that's been out there. Right? And, by the way, not all heroin, not all opium-based products are illegal. Okay? They're not illegal. A lot of them are. Heroin being one of them, of course. Smokable opium being another. But where do you think the medical industry gets its opium from? Because they have to have morphine, which is a form of opium, very powerful. Excuse me. Now, I'm not completely certain how Oxycodone is created, the hillbilly heroin. I'm sure that it is some form of synthesized opium. Let's just look it up. Let's look it up. I don't know. Oxycodone. Just in case you wanted to know too. We're going to be more informed today about Oxycodone. This is a real life. Here we go. I'll come back. Okay, here we go. Control size. Okay, of course. Oxycodone is a semi-synthetic opioid synthesized from thebaine, an opioid alkaloid found in the Persian poppy, and one of the many alkaloids found in the opium poppy. It is a moderately potent opioid analgesic, generally indicated for relief of moderate to severe pain. Oxycodone was developed in 1917. Of course, Germans invented it. Invented all the best drugs, including Albert Hoffman was Swiss, though, wasn't he? As one of the several semi-synthetic opioids in an attempt to improve existing opioids, oxycodone is available as a single-ingredient medication in immediate release and controlled release. How about that? So they've got to get those poppies from someplace. And have you noticed the rise of oxycodone use in the past decade in this country? I would say it's somehow linked to the occupation of Afghanistan. I'm going to throw some money down on that. I'm going to make a little bit of a wager and say that the two are connected. So now we have the legal and the non-legal drug trade, because these medical manufacturers got to buy this stuff from somewhere, right? Am I right? I mean, have you seen any poppy fields growing in Wyoming? Have you seen any poppy fields growing in New Mexico? I haven't. It's got to come from somewhere. That's what I'm talking about. So we're there, and we're going to stay there for as long as we can, because number one, it's really close to Russia. And number two, there's all kinds of poppies. Number three, they can blow stuff up. There's a lot of area to blow things up. It's an enormous place, Afghanistan. And when you blow stuff up, you got to replace them. You've got to replace the things that you blow up, or else you just get sort of this backlog of all these arms that are manufactured. So every now and then they have to have a war, which is like an enema. I think maybe, this whole opium thing and war is connected, because people who take heroin have a really hard time going to the bathroom. In fact, there's an infomercial out right now. It's really a bad one, because there's all kinds of really crappy puns, pun intended, about this guy who uses opioids for pain, and he can't go to the bathroom. So they give him something else to take care of that. And so we are, how shall we say this, militarily constipated, because we have all these weapons backed up. And so at some point, the United States will have to have a war, like an enema, just so they can drain the backlog of the weapons. As a former citizen of France, I was a citizen of France for 12 years. I was born in France. I had up until the age of 12 to declare dual citizenship. And my parents thought that I could be a French citizen just by the dint of my birth. But no, that is not the case. But for 12 years, I kind of was. And as a former French citizen, I'm not proud of my country today. My ex-country. I think they could have done a little bit better job on the elections. But that's the way it is in the world circa 2017, and I guarantee you from here on out, almost any and all elections are going to be manufactured. If they haven't, well, we know they've been for decades. So let's just be clear about that. But there'll be nothing left to chance now. And if there is a so-called victory on the side of the nationalist or the individualist side of the ledger sheet, it will be something that will be either a complete mutagenic break, or it will be something that is pre-programmed and planned, engineered, like just about everything else. But that's not going to determine ultimately who we are and why we're here. And that brings us back to the individual, to what we were talking about, or what I was talking about earlier, because we have to define ourselves internally. This is the biggest piece for all of us. Because if we allow ourselves to be swept along in the tide, the turbulent tide of the political agenda, at this point it's basically up shit creek without a paddle. So here at 9:28 a.m. Central Standard Time, Austin, Texas, with the moon in Libra, conjunct Jupiter in Libra. Actually, it was conjunct yesterday. What can you do to bring your life in balance and make sure that you're grounded and solid and living from that divine place every single day and every single moment in your life, where you're tested and challenged, no doubt, by the conditions around you. But don't give in to them. Hold your ground. Keep your faith. This is Robert Phoenix. You've been listening to 15 Minutes of Flame. And you know the old drill. Use your head to discern what's real, your heart to see what's possible. I just wanted to remind people my weekend sale is going to end tonight at midnight. And my rates for readings are going to go up. And so I'm giving you guys out there a bit of a discount. If you'd like to book a full session with me, I'm taking $25 off of that. So that's $130 for a full session. And I'm taking $95 off of my astrological course, the 16-hour course, which I think many of you have purchased and are enjoying. And that is $200, it's only $295. If you go out there, you'll find courses that are for sale for $1,500. And mine is, I'll put mine up against anybody's, and especially for the price. So that's open and available. You can send me an email at rpm1122@zoho.com. And if you're interested in either of those, just say that you heard me on the show today, or over the weekend you want to take advantage of it. All right, we'll be back tomorrow, 24 hours from now, for another 15 Minutes of Flame. So use your head to discern what's real, your heart just to open to what's possible. I'm Robert Phoenix. Have a great day.